Hello, adventurers. Welcome back. Today we are on day 3 of Is it worth it to transform with form spells? But we've already gotten past that question. I think we've shown that they can be worth using at this point. I certainly am excited about them. So what are we up to now? Well, this one's all about how do I actually go about using them? What does that look like? What does it look like to build a character with form spells to use them well? And then what does that actually look like in combat? So yeah, that's what I want to cover today. Let's actually put this to the test, see what it looks like. Granted, I have built these scenarios out. So yes, they're going to work certainly here better than maybe they would on just the random encounter, but they should show up enough in encounters that you could use them. And there will be plenty of situations where that's possible. As we go through this video and I'm talking to you about these different builds, we're going to talk about 4 builds. We've got a level 3, level 9, level 15, and level 20 build to talk about. I'm not going to do combats for each of them. I'm just going to do 2 different combat examples, one for the level 3 build and one for the level 15. I'm not going to go through the full build. We're not going to look at every single feat, everything, single skill upgrade, all of that. I'm going to talk about the numbers that you'll have, assuming you're keeping up with potency runes and all that, for AC, for your attack, things of that nature. I'm talking about the spells you should be taking, and by that I mean your highest rank spells, what those look like, and then usually like maybe 2 other ranks of spells right below that, because those are your most impactful spells most of the time. Just to give you an idea of ways that you can combo up other spells with form spells to get the most out of it. And none of this is the right way to play these characters. None of this is telling you, if you don't play it like this, you should never use form spells. It's just, hey, you're looking to use form spells. Here's an idea of how you can combo it up in a full caster build to feel like, yes, you can be that martial character in with everybody else when you're in form, but you can also just play a general support or control caster alongside that. Or, of course, you can always be damaged, but I'm going to focus on control and support because I think they combo really well with changing into a form. So yeah, a few things that are worth mentioning before we dive into the actual builds so that you understand why I'm bringing up the different spells I am, is I'm going to be leaving out AoE damage spells and single target damage spells most of the time. Why is that? Well, because your damage ideally is coming from your form that you're in, right? You're going to be in a form doing melee or ranged single target damage a lot of the time, unless you've got a form later on, in which case you probably are dropping some AoE damage here and there, dragon form. I'm not saying you shouldn't have any damage spells in your toolkit. I'm just saying I'm going to show off what it looks like either using support or control spells alongside transformation, because I think that combo works really well. And then there are different encounters that are going to call for different approaches. But I believe that normally what I would do is that I would use some sort of setup a spell on round 1 that's just trying to help out the encounter, whether it's buffing allies, controlling the battlefield, what have you, then transform on round 2. And this is going to be true if the encounter was going to last at least 4 rounds, either battlefield control, debuffing, some sort of creature control, or team buffs would have a significant impact. I'm got to be sitting on good HP if I'm even going to be willing to do that to get into the fight, because remember, you have your own HP here. And making sure that we're in a situation where spells just clearly aren't going to end an encounter easily, right? So if any of those things aren't true, then we're probably not changing form, and so we might play differently. Again, you're a full spellcaster. You can do incredible things. You don't need to change form to be effective. This is just one fun thing you can do in your toolkit. So that describes the majority of combats to me, though. Those generally always apply, right? They're not going to be over immediately. It's going to be useful to control the battlefield or buff your allies. All these things are likely going to be true, at least the way I run things in Pathfinder, and what I see here and there seems to confirm that. Depends on your DM and how they run combats. In any case, let's go ahead and dive into the builds themselves and the gameplay examples so we can talk about how to help you use form spells on your character. First up, we have a level 3 build. This is nice and early in your career, and really the first time you have a combat form spell, which is why I chose level 3. Before this, it's possible you could have pest form. That is not a combat form. Ever. Not use it for that. So, this is our first time we have a form spell that you can be used in combat. This spell being animal form, which means that we have to be a primal spellcaster, because that's who gets animal form. And yes, I want to start with a focus on the Untamed Druid, given its special features. So what does an Untamed Druid look like at this level? First, we have our stats, which we do need to talk about, because I want to be able to substitute my own unarmed attack, because I'm an untamed druid and I get a boost if I use my own, so I want to either lean into strength or dexterity, but I'm going to lean into strength, and I'm going to lead into that because a lot of the forms use strength instead of dexterity for the attacks. You do have to substitute the right one. So what does this look like? Well, because we're going to push our strength up, it means our dex is not going to be as high. So I'm looking at a +4 in wisdom, +3 in strength, +1 con, and +1 dex to start out. Again, this could change around depending on how your ancestries work. You might have a +2 in either con or dex, and a negative in either int or charisma. I think that works just fine, but anyway. With these attributes, let's look at gear really quickly. Keep in mind that we are level 3, so the cost should be not a prohibitive thing here for you. We can use a breastplate, right? We have medium armor as a druid. This will max out our AC even with a +1 to dex, so that's great. I would say go ahead and grab a steel shield. It won't matter when you're transformed, but it's good to have when you're not. And it's important you have your +1 hand wraps of mighty blows. At level 3, we should be able to have a +1 from a potency rune on our attacks, but we wouldn't have striking yet, the way that the system builds out. So thanks to the hand wraps, our fists will have a +9 to hit at this level, and that will matter. We'll see that come in. So for our subclass, we of course are taking Untamed Order for the Untamed Form focus spell. But if you prefer a different order, you can take it. So say like Storm or Animal Form. And then at level 2, you can take the Order Explorer feat and grab Untamed, and you'll still get the Untamed Form focus spell. And that's what actually matters here. As for spells to take at this point, the cantrips, you can just take your favorites. I would make sure to have guidance here, things like Electric Arc. So lots of things to consider, but I've talked about cantrips a lot, as well as other spells. So you can just go take a look at those if you're curious. As for spells, we don't actually need to take any form spells at all. We have 2 rank 2 slots and 3 rank 1 slots, and we are a prepared caster. So we want to have a solid plan for the day. Keep in mind, we'll be able to change form using our focus spell, which just uses our focus points, which is awesome because we already have 2 of them. I will assume that we are able to shift in every combat because we have the focus points to do it. So just assume if you want to, you can do it all the time. So how am I choosing my spells? I want to choose spells that have long-lasting effects if possible. So if I'm looking at my rank 2 spell slots to prepare, it could be things like on the control side, Entangling Flora, Breath of Drought, which provides Sickened on creatures, which isn't always easy to get rid of and is painful, Manifestation of Spirits, so you can throw some Stupefied 3 out there potentially, and Vomit Swarm to get Sickened effect again. So there's some effects that will last a long time. That's a great way to control creatures. And then Entangling Flora controls the battlefield. On the support side, we might use things like Enlarge, possibly Summon Elemental. Keep in mind that, if we use, when we're in our changed form, we might use 1 action to stride, 1 to strike, and then we can have 1 to have our summoned creature go attack. And even when we transform, we have 1 action left on that turn, so we could potentially command our elemental if we summoned it. Anyway, Resist Energy, this is 10 minutes. So if you can set up knowing what you're going to need, great. And then, of course, we can use just something like Heightened Heal. It doesn't last a long time, but it's just good to have heal. As far as our rank 1 slots, you've got things like Fear, Grease, Goblin Pox, or Leaden Steps if you want to affect creatures at the battlefield. And then we've got support tools like Fleet Step, Protector Tree, Tailwind, and again, Heal. Some of these last a long time, some of them not, but rank 1 and rank 2, right? So do what we can. All of them are very good spells. And then, of course, we have our focus spell, Untamed Form. That's already on our sheet. Great, we need it. That's how we're relying on everything here. The other details of build aren't all that important to our general setup. I'm sure you can find ancestry combinations you like that make a difference. I didn't dig deep for those ones. Also, assumed that you took Untamed as your order. So at level 2, you can take whatever feat you want. There's nothing like hugely important here. So if you wanted a different order to take Order Explorer, go ahead and just do that. Awesome. Otherwise, I would just take something like Reach Spell for when you're not changing into a form and need a little more distance. So how does this actually play out? Well, let's go ahead and jump into a quick combat example to show it off. And yes, I do like reusing the same map for all my combats. And we're going to do it again here for now. Maybe we'll change it up later. By the way, I don't do this because, it's easy and I'm being lazy. Yeah, let's stick with that. That's not why I do it. We'll just pretend there's some other reason. I can't think of it right now. Anyway, here we are. We have our untamed druid, plus we have a champion and a ranger in the party. This party is up against 5 lower level enemies. These are all level 2 bandits and ruffians. Our ranger uses a bow and the champion is a melee combatant. So we already know we're going into this that if we join in on melee combat, we can potentially flank with our champion, but we should make sure to try and keep enemies from the ranger as well. Thanks to high wisdom and expert in perception, we have a solid plus 11 on initiative. And yeah, that means we're probably going to go first, which really helps with the build. It's great to be able to go first in this kind of build especially, but it's always good for spellcasters to go first. On round 1, given how spread out the enemies are, looks like a lot of them have melee weapons. I probably don't want to go straight into my form. Instead, I'm going to use Entangling Flora for 2 actions to mess with the battlefield. Then use my last action to reposition, knowing I plan to transform next round. As others move around the battlefield, some enemies approach, our champion meets them head on, and the ranger fires away. The ranger focusing on enemies using range themselves, and the champion on melee enemies. With our spell in place and our second turn up, there are still 4 creatures alive at this point. One is right up on us, so we could step away then transform to avoid a potential reactive strike, or just transform here and be able to make a strike ourselves. I'm going to go for the second route, and yes, the enemy has reactive strike, and hits me and deals 8 damage, taking me down to 30 after 1 hit, and 1 reduced damage hit thanks to the champion. But now we are in animal form. Our new AC is 19, which is 1 less than we had before transforming, which is unfortunate. Our plus to hit, though, with strikes would be plus 9. However, we are untamed, and our natural unarmed strike has a plus 9, which means when we use our own in place of whatever the spell has, we get to boost it by 2. So we have a plus 11. I'm going to go with a canine, let's say wolf form, giving me 2d8 plus 1 damage on the bite. Since my enemy's here, I'll just go ahead and bite. If the enemy wasn't up to me, I could use this last action to move up and to flank an enemy with the champion, or I could have first cast Glass Shield or Guidance, then transformed. Both really solid options depending on what the situation looks like. The enemy only has an AC of 18 against my plus 11 to attack, which means that I need a 7 to hit or 17 to crit. And 20% crit is solid. That feels really good. And I will hit, dealing 14 damage, which is about half of the ruffian's hit points. The ranger helps to focus down my enemy while the champion continues to fight off 2 others. When it comes back around to me, I can easily flank with my ally. None of the enemies are still affected by my spell, right? They've all left the spell at this point. But it did matter. It slowed enemies down and forced them to make choices they didn't want to make, like running up rather than staying in the vines and becoming immobilized because they just don't have that kind of range. I can flank with a champion, meaning my plus 11 is going against the creature's now reduced 16 AC from being off guard. This is a solid 30% crit chance, and sure enough, I'm going to crit for 22 damage, and that just drops the creature right there. Sadly, the champion can't take advantage of flanking, and takes another out before getting dropped to 0 herself. With only 1 enemy left, I can choose to dismiss my form. This takes 1 action. Dismissing is not free. Then use my rank 1 heal to give the champion back 13 hit points. I used 2 action, used the ranged version, so it's 1d8 plus 8, because I did it with a rank 1 slot. The ranger will then bring the creature down to just a few hit points, and the champion will stand, run over, and finish it off. In that one combat with just 4 rounds, you can see that we were able to use the battlefield control, getting into melee combat, and being very successful in melee combat in this form, and even support our allies with a heal after the fact, because we can just drop out and still be a full caster, playing an extremely versatile character. The details and actions also matter, though. Transforming can trigger reactions. You have to use 1 action to dismiss your form and can't cast spells in your form, so please keep all of that in mind. And yes, as an untamed druid at level 3, our plus to hit is kind of crazy. It won't always be like that, although at level 5, it'll actually be crazier than that. But most of the time it won't be absolutely nuts. As we move along here, I'm not going to do any combat for our level 9 build, but I'll still talk about it because it does matter throughout your career understanding what this could look like. This time though, let's change it up. I want to go through the different spell traditions to talk about what that means. So we're going to jump to Occult this time, and let's go ahead and be a Psychic. Why not? We have fewer hit points this time, and using our own plus to hit really won't be useful. There's no way it's going to keep up, and we don't get a +2 bump like we do with the Untamed Form spell. So at this level, the most we're going to get up to is a +16 with our own unarmed strike, and the forms at this level, we're looking at a +18, generally speaking. Still, with our 1 repertoire slot, we can take Aberrant Form, meaning 1 at this level that we can get. This means that we are looking at spells at ranks 4 and 3 to cast before switching form, or even before combat in some cases. So what do I suggest those look like? Well, at rank 4, we could have control spells like Wall of Mirrors, Containment, or Confusion. And then there's some really great support spells here with Parochial Philosophy, Fly, and possibly Telepathy. At rank 3, we've got things like Heightened Fear for a nice AoE fear effect before switching into it, Wall of Shadow, or Day's Weight. And on the support side of things, we can cast awesome spells like Heroism, Haste, and Levitate. Our stats at this point should be a +4 in Charisma. I went the Charisma route instead of Intelligence. Could have gone either way. It's a Psychic. +4 in Dexterity, +2 in Wisdom, and +2 in Constitution. If you even want a chance to use your own unarmed strikes, you should have a +1 Hand Rest Mighty Blows on, +2 is next level, along with another boost in your stats. But really, that is honestly best saved for Untamed Druid builds most of the time. As for important feats, there aren't any like critical to forms like Untamed Druid has. But, you know, there's still options that help, like Mental Static can be used to great effect because reactions and things like that can still be used. These are features we have while we're polymorphed, which is cool. Keep in mind that you have your own mental stats while in these forms. In this case, if you crit succeed on a will save against a mental effect, you can deal some damage back to the creature that tried to affect you as a reaction. That's still going to work. So watch for feats that have application while you're polymorphed that you can take. And yes, you're still you inside that form. As with the example previously, you could spend your first round of combat controlling the enemies or battlefield, or providing a buff to allies. In this case, you might just cast a spell like Fly on an ally before even entering combat. Keep in mind, Fly has a 5-minute duration by default, and have that going when you enter combat, and then just change form right away because you are still supporting your team. Once you have changed form, your plus to hit with attacks will be +18, which is decent for the level. It's not crazy, but it's good. Importantly, you'll have a 27 AC when you switch form into Aberrant Form, which is definitely better than your +25 without a form. That's assuming you max your dex, because you know we're talking about a class that doesn't have any armor with it, so keep that all in mind. You'll get that strained +13 temp HP for changing form, but you're also going to have really solid choices. I personally like the Gug for in and out tactics. It's high damage strikes, 2d12 +8 or 21 average, has a reach of 10 feet, allowing you to strike and then move full away, and you have a 40-foot speed, so you can really get away. So if you want to get in and out without triggering reactive strikes from like your average enemy, this is a great way to do it. The other really strong option for me here is the Gogateth, though. The primary doesn't have reach, but has a 1-action guaranteed grab after you land a strike, right? It's a strike with the whole plus grab mechanic. It also has a 40-foot speed and a great climb speed. And it still has a second reach attack that has the agile trait, which is cool. It just does about 15 damage a hit and doesn't grab, but you have options. So some really good forms here to choose from. But we're not going to talk about combat here beyond just kind of talking you through the general idea. Let's jump into our level 15 build where we will have a combat example again. So jumping up to our level 15 build, and before we get the combat going, let's go ahead and talk about the class. Do an arcane caster this time, so let's go very traditional and go wizard. For both thematics and high level, I'm going to go ahead and take the Protean form as our subclass. That's our arcane school. We'll get to know exactly why in a bit. As for our attributes, I kept making sure to maximize int and dexterity in this case, with con as a follow, leaving this character with a +5 to int, +5 dex, 4 con, 3 wisdom, and 1 charisma. This leaves us with a tolerable 173 hit points. It's not going to be good. You're a wizard. With Explorer's Clothing upgraded with runes, normally you'd have a 36 AC. And then with our fist, with the right runes and all that, we'd have a +26 to hit. There aren't many feats for wizards that make a whole lot of difference to form spells, but form retention at level 8 offers you something similar to one of the feats Untamed Druids can get with form control. A way to, make a form last longer, but it's a weaker version. So if you want to be able to fly outside of combat using a form, it's a really good way to do that. Besides that, you can always take the level 10 quickened casting feat, which allows you to cast 2 action spells on the same turn by reducing the action cost of one of them. The catch is that the spell that you're reducing the cost of has to be 2 ranks below your highest possible spell, but we're 8th rank spells now, and they're really great 6th ranked options, so you can do a whole lot in a single turn. Really nice when you're changing form. Anyway, what kind of spells are we looking for at this level? First off, we get one for free that we get for having our subclass, and in this case, it is Monstrosity Form. Or we could have chosen Desiccate, but I'm going to go with the Form because what we're doing here. Our 7th rank spell choices for the subclass were Fiery Body and Duplicate Foe. I prefer the latter personally. And finally, at rank 6, which is as low as I'm going to talk about for this setup here, our choices would have been Petrify and Cursed Metamorphosis. Again, I prefer the latter of the two. It's an interesting debuff control spell. Anyway, what kind of spells are worth actually looking at taking alongside your form spells? Well, we look at 8th rank spells, and there are some just amazing stuff on the list. As far as control goes, we've got Quandary, I think one of the best spells in the entire game. Prismatic Wall, Falling Sky to pull all of those flying creatures out of the air, and Power Word Stun. For support spells, we've got things like Disappearance, All is One, One is All, and a Heightened Dragon Form for ourselves. And I am putting that on the list. So we've got either Monstrosity Form or Dragon Form as options. At 7th rank, at rank 7 for control spells, I'm looking at things like Warp Mind, Reverse Gravity, or Heightened Wall of Shadow possibly. And then on the support side, we've got things like True Target, which is a 1-action spell, especially if you've got, melee or at least martial allies. Heightened Haste to boost the whole party. Heightened Fly for an hour's worth of flight, or Contingency. And finally, at 6th rank, we've got control spells like Wall of Force, which is amazing. Wall of Metal, a great barrier as well. Phantom Orchestra, which is a sustained damage and control. Well, it's mostly damage, I guess. But still, it's sustained, so we can keep it going spell. And then we've got on the support side things like Heightened Airlift, Mislead, and Repulsion. So let's go ahead and talk about what happens when we change form before we get into the combat. I'll be honest, I should probably just use Monstrosity Form since it was given to us for free, but I'm going to talk about Dragon Form instead because I really like it and I want to talk about it. When we change into our Dragon Form, we will have an AC of 36, so we haven't gone anywhere. Defense is the same. We'll have a plus to hit of plus 28, so 2 higher than our natural one, so we wouldn't use ours. And then we get at least a 10-foot reach on strikes. We get a fly speed of 120 feet with still a 40-foot ground speed, so we're moving. We'll grab 15 temporary hit points. Our bite will do an average of 25 piercing plus 7 damage that matches whatever breath weapon we take, which depends on the dragon we take. Then there's our 14d6 30-foot cone or 100-foot line breath weapon. We even get resist 10 to the type of damage that our breath weapon does, plus resist 5 to spell damage if we take an arcane dragon, which we might as well, because there's so many. Some of the arcane dragons include like Barrage, which has a cone of force, Mirage with a cone of mental, Rune with a cone of fire, Sea with a cone of bludgeoning, Wailing with a cone of sonic. So many great options. Unless you have a really good reason, like weaknesses from enemies that's very specific that there isn't an arcane version of, just probably take an arcane dragon so you get that spell damage resist just to have it anyway. In our case, I say generally I'm going to look at something that does force damage just because almost nothing resists it. There's so few things, like 20 out of 3,500 creatures on Archives of Nethys or something like that. It's really, really rare. So that is already a lot to get from our form, keeping in mind that we are now huge size, 15 by 15, which could attract more attention. There is a fun trick here, by the way, where you could use repulsion on yourself on round 1 and make the range short enough that creatures can get up to you without having to do a save, but not all the way up to get into melee range of you, meaning for them to hit you, but they could be in your melee range, and then if they fail to save, they're stuck at the border where you can still smack them around, but they can't get to you. Anyway, that's just a random aside. Let's get into this combat. So we have the same team to start with, generally speaking, just much higher level now. The only real change is that we now have the wizard that we just created. So we join the party, there's now 4 in the party. Let's assume that we have contingency set up to cast haste on ourselves with the trigger of initiative being rolled. In this case, the party is defending a keep from 4 elemental creatures. See, I brought a new map. Do it occasionally. 2 are earthen in nature, there's a storm creature here, and then the final is an amalgam of all 6 elemental types, and seems to be kind of like commanding the others. 3 of these creatures are lower level than our party, but not by a whole lot, and the 4th is on equal footing. There's quite a bit more going on at this level with characters, so I will try to simplify it a bit. Keep in mind that there's just a lot more that all players are going to be doing, and the GMs got to keep a lot more in mind at this time. Because of that, my combat example here is going to be a little more detailed to kind of show up more carefully what's going on. So we're going to roll for initiative. That triggers our contingency and providing our wizard haste, which lasts for the entire combat and gives us 1 extra action every round to either use for stride or strike. Both useful at different times. Really helps when we are in our form. The elemental font will have its turn first, rushing toward the druid and champion with its flaming face on, just screaming at them before it gets up close and explodes in a ring of fire. The 2 heroes make saves, the champion taking the full 31 fire damage from the blast and the druid taking only 15. Even with that, champion uses her reaction to reduce the damage down to 0 and causes the elemental to be affected by revealing light. The ranger chooses to hunt the font before firing a flurry of shots at it, taking a chunk of hit points in the process. Next up is our wizard here. Neither of the earthen elementals have had their turn yet, so we're going to go ahead and reposition real quickly, which we can do for free thanks to haste. And then we're going to cast Wall of Force, which is a 3-action cast. And this is meant to slow the elementals down from getting to the party because it doesn't look like they can fly. The Destiny Tempest is up, flying over the wall. It uses a 2-action feature it has and then rushes the wizard, hitting for 21 damage and forcing a will save, which our wizard with a +24 succeeds at. The Grit Blights, our earthen friends, are now up and roll forward, hitting the wall. Not being the most intelligent, they beat on the wall, doing very little damage to it, given the high hardness of the wall. The champion, unable to reach either foe on the other side of the wall with a melee strike, uses Expand Aura, and then repositions to ensure the rest of the party is in the aura, raises her shield, using the focus spell Shield of Spirits, helps everyone in the aura get a little boost. This finally brings us to the druid, who upcasts Shock to the System on the champion, healing her completely, quickening her, and granting her the ability to cast 6th rank Thunderstrike as an innate spell. She then repositions. The font is up again and directs the others to target the druid. With its actions, the font switches to its wood face and spawns vines, attempting to hold its enemies in place. This is not affected by revealing light, but both the champion and druid make saves. The champion succeeds, but the druid becomes slowed 1 because it failed. The ranger continues to attack its prey, but repositions to stay in the champion's aura, but avoid the font at the same time. This takes the font down to half health. Our wizard is up now once more. The Tempest is upon him, but hovering above. It's dragon form time. The wizard changes shape into the form of a phase dragon. This is an arcane dragon with a force breath weapon. Given the various types of damage possible from the enemies, it doesn't make sense to just, choose an elemental type or choose something just to resist. So decides best to just get the most you can out of the breath weapon. Once transformed, thanks to being quickened and being huge, the wizard makes a jaw strike at the Tempest with a +28 modifier. The Tempest AC is only 34, meaning it's a hit at 6 and a crit at 16, and yes, it's a critical strike here. This is a total of 44 piercing and 12 force damage, thanks to the dragon choice. Turns out The Tempest is weak to Force, luckily, taking an extra 10 Force damage for a total of 66 damage. He then, the dragon I mean, our wizard dragon, takes off 100 feet into the air to keep crazy distance, triggering no reactive strike of any kind, and leaving options open for next round. That is just huge speed. 120 is an insane speed, so moving 100 feet is usually still probably plenty. The Tempest, not easy to keep up with the dragon there, doesn't follow, is injured, and is told to go after the druid anyway, so repositions slightly and casts Nevermind on the druid. The druid succeeds, but is still stupefied 2 for a round. The rock creatures choose to move around the wall at this point, each approaching the druid and attacking once. The druid is hit each time. The first for 29 damage, which the champion reduces down to 12, causing it to be affected by Revealing Light, and the second rolls around, critically hitting for 56, which sticks. The champion is able to move in and attack now. First, she blasts the closest rock creature with electricity, thanks to being buffed, which hits really hard, then rushes in to flank with the druid, dealing considerable damage to the creature. However, both creatures have Blight Aura, but the champion succeeds against both auras. The druid isn't as lucky. It fails against one of the creature's auras, takes a bit of damage, and becomes drained 1. The druid then rushes away from the various foes before casting a 1-action heal on itself. It's slowed 1, so moving an action, then this is an action. Unfortunately, thanks to being stupefied, it actually fails the flat check, and the cast fails, leaving the druid really exposed. The druid, while escaping the rock creatures, unfortunately did not get far enough away from the font. The font is able to move up slightly before using that same wood action again, this time targeting all 3 heroes on the ground. The ranger and the druid fail. This makes the ranger slowed 1 and petrifies the druid. The ranger, though slowed, decides to go ahead and lean into damage, attempting to take out the font. The damage is significant, but the font still has slightly less than a quarter of its HP remaining. The Tempest then changes focus to the ranger. It soars in and uses Slither Whisper, which is its basic strike, critically hitting for 44 damage and forcing a save, which the ranger fails, becoming frightened 2. Things are not looking great, but the wizard is up. Knowing the Tempest is weak to force and the font is low HP, soars down and positions right so that can use the 30-foot cone of force breath on both creatures. The Tempest succeeds, but the font fails the save. The font takes 49 force damage, knocking it from the sky, and it hits the ground with 0 hit points. The Tempest would only take 24, but thanks to the weakness to force, takes 34 damage, but is still holding up. The wizard then bites the Tempest, landing a hit for another 35 damage. The rock creatures are up and choose to focus on the champion after it blasted one with electricity last round. Thanks to flanking, they're both going to do considerable damage, leaving the champion at a sad 50 hit points. With the champion up, she first succeeds on 42 saves against auras, then blasts the injured one with lightning before using 2 actions to get really far away, though trying to keep the ranger still in range of her enlarged aura. The druid is petrified for a minute, so does nothing. With the font dead, the ranger is up and chooses to hunt the Tempest after the beating it took. The ranger is slowed 1, but can still take 1 action for 2 strikes against the hunted target, and after trying the Tempest, it's going to fire it off. This is enough damage to finally dissipate the Tempest into thin air, but leaves the ranger vulnerable to the rock creatures. The wizard decides to set down for 1 action, which is, remember, hasted, so that 1 action is essentially free. Then end the dragon form for a 2nd action, and finally cast Quandary on the completely healthy rock creature, teleporting it away to a pocket dimension. This leaves just 1 very injured creature to face 3 active heroes. It turns and blasts a 60-foot cone of disruptive mental energy at all of the heroes, including the druid. 2 of them end up blinded, the druid and the wizard, and they are all injured, but mostly the champion. The 2nd rock creature does not return from its pocket dimension on its turn. By the way, since the creature that did the AoE was not in the champion's aura, the champion could not stop any of the damage from it. Creature has to be in the aura as well. I forgot to mention that. I should mention it. However, it is the champion's turn, and she rushes back before letting 1 last devastating electrical blast out, dismantling the creature. As a final action, the champion casts Lay on Hands on herself, healing for 48 hit points. The ranger uses 2 actions to prepare for a strike with the trigger of the other creature reappearing, and the wizard is going to go ahead and change form once more, this time into a mighty worm from monstrosity form. When the rock creature finally returns, it's going to be a bloodbath. As you can see, the forms can be a great advantage, but knowing when to drop the form and when to go back, casting spells between, setting up, it's all really crucial to playing it very, very well. Not that I'm saying I played it well, this is just an example, and obviously I contrived the situation, but it can be played well. Just keep in mind when you need to do everything on your turn to help out the team and still get in that damage. Anyway, let's quickly take a look at a level 20 caster using combat forms before closing this up. And no, there's no combat for the level 20 caster. There are only 2 spell traditions with rank 10 forms, Primal and Divine. In this case, we're actually going to go with Divine. It's our last we haven't done yet, but a Divine caster with unique options, specifically the Animist. Looking out to level 20, we are able to have attributes. We got +4 for both Con and Dex. We get a +5 in Strength and a +6 in Wisdom, assuming you were taking Strength in case you wanted to use your own unarmed at any point with different forms. The Animist has training in medium armor, great, which means the lower Dex isn't going to hurt us. As we look out towards level 20, there are important aspects of your character to think about. You can grab feats along the way, much like Untamed Druid has. Animist has several to help you with form spells, which is cool, transforming that way. What it's really doing, though, in this case is it's adding form spells to what you can use your apparition spell slots for. So you're going to have quite a few spells available to you by the time you are level 20. You'll have 1 or possibly 2 rank 10 slots, depending on if you took the level 20 feat for a second rank 10 slot. Then you'll have 3 rank 9 slots and 4 of each rank below that. The catch is that half those slots are used for casting with your prepared divine spells, and the other half are for spontaneous spells from your apparitions. As we talked about, there really isn't a good combat reason, other than maybe flight to keep distance away, to change into any form that doesn't use your highest rank spell slots. So we're really just going to use that, and in that case, for this caster, it means Avatar. In Avatar form, we have an AC of 25 plus level, so 45, which is 3 better than we would actually normally have, even with all the boosts on our armor and stuff. We have a plus to hit in the form of +33 instead of our natural +32. I feel like it should be +34 like it is for Nature Incarnate, but whatever. We also get 30 temporary hit points, which is nothing to laugh at. We do have a base of 268 with my build, but still, 30 on top feels good. And I haven't really talked about this much when we talk about all the form changing, but the +2 athletics here is worth mentioning. Because on the build, I went ahead and put in legendary athletics, so I built it up. We have as much strength as we can have for our character, and our +2 athletics, without changing form, is, it's really solid. It's 33. But in Avatar form, it's 35. So that is crazy high. The form we take depends on the primary apparition we have. For instance, we might use Steward of Stone and Fire and get a 50-foot land speed with a 50-foot burrow speed. You can ignore difficult and greater difficult terrain. You get a 15-foot reach with a 39 damage on average fire melee strike, and 120-foot range on a ranged 27 damage on average fire strike as well. Or we might go with something like Lurker in Devouring Dark, where we have a 70-foot land speed, a 70-foot swim speed, and a 30-foot reach melee strike that deals 6d10 plus 6. Again, same thing, average of 39 on a hit, but has grab on it as well, which means you just spend your next action, as long as you hit with that strike, and you just get to grab the creature. No save, it just happens. So the various forms are going to offer lots of different things in their avatar forms, which is great. You can find something that you like. No matter what you're going for, you will find something that you like. As for spells to support it, well, of course you have your avatar at rank 10 with your apparition slot. So that's what the rank 10 apparition slot is going to be used for. That's the only choice you get there. If you choose a second rank 10 slot, it's on the prepared side for the feat at level 20. And then you might want to go with something like Manifestation or Nullify, or, and this was new since I made my rank 10 spell video, Dragon Turret, which actually works with form changing pretty well because it's something where you have to use an action at return to fire off some damage from this cool dragon turret you raise up out of the ground, where a dragon's like blasting 60-foot cones of damage every turn for 1 action. So that, along with what you're doing the form, interesting and cool combo. Anyway, what do our rank 9 spells look like? And I'm just looking at spells you could take for your prepared slots, because the other ones are just there. They're from your apparitions. We don't need to talk about it. I'm not going to go through every apparition. I have a video for that. No, for our divine slots, we're looking at things like Overwhelming Presence, Voracious Gestalt, or Weapon of Judgment. These all work really well, along with being changed in form. And for rank 8, things like Unholy Army. I haven't talked about it, but incarnate spells do work well, right? You cast it on round 1, and then when you, at the end of round 2, you've changed form and all that, the second half of the incarnate spell goes off, so you're still getting benefit out of it that same turn that you're using to change form, which usually don't get to do a lot on. So incarnate spells can be cool, it's just they don't have anything lasting after that. Then we've got Moment of Renewal, just for nice support, or things like Heightened Shock to the System even. Just throw that on an ally who might struggle otherwise in the encounter, and away they go. Again, don't want to talk too much about the apparitions spells, because you might just have the apparitions for various reasons. I do recommend grabbing at least 1 apparition. Keep in mind, at this point you have 4. At least 1 that has access to the Quandary spell at rank 8, just because, it's really good, and I think it's worth hunting down. There are options for that. Otherwise, just have fun with it. Check out my video if you're looking for what I think are the strongest apparitions. I talk about some of the spells there, but just look through the lists that they have. Below rank 8, you can easily have all kinds of amazing support and utility and control spells as well. I'm just not going to get deep into that, but they exist, so don't ignore those either. And that's it. I hope that this has helped you understand how to potentially play a form-shifting caster if you want to try that out. And I really think you should think about it. I think this is an awesome way to build a character. If you're a GM, this might be one of the things you toss out to a more veteran player who wants a play pattern that is very rewarding, but also takes some thinking. What do you think? Did this make you want to play a form-swapping caster? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, adventure on.